The following program is a Creative Magic Network production. Hey guys, December 3rd is the deadline to enter the contest to win Land Secretan's powerful book on inspiring leadership, titled The Spark, the Flame, and the Torch. Inspire yourself, inspire others, inspire the world. And the best part, the book is in hardcover. That's right, hardcovers are hard to get these days. So if you haven't already, you can enter the contest by going to frederickbuy.com. That's Frederick with a C, buy like bye-bye.com, and enter your email in the pop-up that will appear at the top of your screen. Have a great episode. Hey guys, December 3rd is the deadline to enter the contest to win Land Secretan's powerful book on inspiring leadership, titled The Spark, the Flame, and the Torch. Inspire yourself, inspire others, inspire the world. And the best part, the book is in hardcover. That's right, hardcovers are hard to get these days. So if you haven't already, you can enter the contest by going to frederickbuy.com. That's Frederick with a C, buy like bye-bye.com, and enter your email in the pop-up that will appear at the top of your screen. Have a great episode. You're listening to What's Your Excuse with Max Ivy, known around the world as the Blind Blogger. People often say, if Max can do it, then why can't I? Here's Max Ivy.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Max Ivy, the Blind Blogger. And this is another episode of What's Your Excuse, along with my good friend and co-host and producer and the guy that does all the technical stuff to make me sound good, Frederick By. And today we've got another great guest and some person who I consider a mentor and a friend, Bill Moore. So I'm going to let Fred tell you a little more about him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad to be here. I love these conversations, and I love to be a co-host. It's pretty cool to do because Max, you know what? You do most of the work during these interviews. But anyway, we have a fascinating guest today. His name is Bill Moore. He's a business consultant, mentor, and trainer who has built multi-million-dollar companies and achieved great success as a U.S. and European turnaround expert. He is best known for his positive results-oriented business mentoring and for achieving 100s of percentage points increases in sales and as high as 80% increases in gross profits by facilitating positive people-oriented change. And you can find him at successfrequency.com. How are you today, Bill?
Oh, doing great, Frederick. Thank you for having me on. Max is a good friend, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I do appreciate you doing this for me, Bill. And I'm going to make it kind of tough on you today. Because you have a lot of experience with Fortune 500 corporations, people who have thousands of employees and handle millions of dollars. But I would say that the majority of our audience are people in a little bit smaller type organizations. We're talking solo entrepreneurs, partnerships, spouses working together. And so today I want you to try as much as possible to focus on how what you've learned over all these years of experience can be applied to people running small businesses, creative people, people with a dream to have a business to support themselves, as opposed to the usual, major corporations that you mentioned in your bio.
Yeah, Max, that's really good. And I'm really glad that that's a focus because I've nearly divorced the big corporations. And when I say that, it's not that I won't work with them, but I have one guideline. If a business is not a conscious business, meaning that they put people first, their employees and their customers, and actually humanity first and foremost, I won't work with them. And so most of my attention since those days in Europe and everything has been shifting over to small to medium-sized enterprises. So I'm actually focusing now on startups and helping young companies put in tens of thousands of dollars of extra revenue so they can be successful. But that is a criteria, and unfortunately, sometimes the big companies kind of lose the plot on that people are their most important asset.
Well, I'm glad to, I kind of knew that about you and also about your wife, Jan, that y'all are what I would consider heart-centered entrepreneurs. But I wanted you to, to get a chance to say that to the people listening so that they wouldn't just automatically go, well, he can't help me kind of thing. That's what I wanted to get out of the way. But yeah, the people that run a business are the most valuable asset. And in a lot of cases, people that are running their own businesses, they don't pay a lot of attention to their own physical, mental, spiritual well-being. Is that something that you have to deal with?
Yeah, I think that I do agree with that, Max. A lot of times people, most any entrepreneur who's starting something or running something that is sort of their dream to create a business, it's real easy to become married to the business and lose touch with some of the other realities of life. Their spiritual connection to what I call the divine quantum universe, that it's where they manifest all their results from, and their families and what have you. And it's all about balance. It's like the old Moody Blues album, The Question of Balance. You have to have that balance, and you have to, focus on all facets of it. And that's a very important part. You've really brought up a good point there, Max.
Okay, now let's talk to people who are, as you said, have a dream and they're just starting out. What is the big, or one of two or three questions that you would say somebody starting a business needs to ask and needs to have clear answers to if they're going to be successful with their new business?
That's a good question, Max. I think that, one of the things is that I look at, and even Jan looks at, we both kind of overlap a little bit, but she has different areas. And I would use a reference. Yesterday, we brought a new client on board, and he is actually working with Jan as a professional executive coach to overcome a couple of obstacles, such as fear and fear of going out and seeing a new client and whatnot. That is one thing, getting any personal issues pushed over to the side, dealt with, and completed. It's not that can't happen while they're setting up and getting their business running. They can both be done at once, but it's really, really important that any of their own personal issues are recognized and they are ready to deal with those right off the bat. For example, if they're in a bad relationship, they need to do something to get that issue resolved before they get into the business, because all it'll do is hurt them. If they have something like a fear issue, if they can be working and getting that out of the way. Most people are programmed by our society to be what they think is successful, but it is a very, very, very limiting type of success. And in actuality, the universe will give them anything they want, as much success as they want. Because that's one thing we do on successfrequency.com. When I'm working with people, there's 4 free videos on there that they can see to get them started making money right away, that they don't even have to get into any kind of coaching program or anything to do. They can just look at them and start making money. But when they're actually developing the business, those kind of things, like getting them out of those issues out of the way. And you mentioned another very important one, and that's the spirituality side. Everybody has their different belief systems, but they do need to be able to recognize and understand that there is a divine consciousness behind this great quantum universe, and that divine consciousness will give them anything they want under one really important condition, and that's that they understand that if they are not getting what they want, and it's something different coming to them, those are actually lessons that need to be learned in order to get what they're after. And they have to be open in their heart to listen to that. And then, of course, as you and I both know, the old saying, what goes around comes around. The way you treat people and interact with humanity has a huge amount of success built into it if you do it right and create a good people relationship. So that is one thing I would really focus on their attention on, and the alignment with their soul's purpose. And that is something that is critically important. The 96% of businesses that fail in the first 5 years, there is a huge number of those that you can see when you sit down and talk to the person who started it, that they did it for the money. And it was not in alignment with what their purpose in life was or their reason for being on the planet. And if they do a little heart searching and, really think about it and look at it and say, ooh, I really like the feel of that. It doesn't matter if they're going to sit at home and make pot holders or create a new brand of dog food or whatever. If it's something that their heart really is calling out to them to do, probability of success just skyrockets.
That's an interesting point. I think I'm sorry, I just want to chime in if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
It's your show. But, it's very important. I think what you just said is very important. However, let's look at the other side. A lot of people are doing what they're passionate about, these painters, writers, and they can support themselves. You said what I'm saying? So, and it's almost like they see money as corrupting their art or their purpose, or what would you tell these people?
Let me just clarify that I heard you right.
Because they're on purpose. They're on purpose,
Yeah, you're saying that they are serving their purpose, but did I understand you correctly that you said that they feel like money corrupts? Is that what you were saying?
Well, it corrupts their art, because you mentioned that, most people who start businesses, a good number of them just do it for the money. And I see that and I understand that. And I believe that is to be true. That is true. But let's look at the other side, where you have these people who do what they love and they still don't, they can't make a living. They're frustrated. And oftentimes a lot of them, money corrupts. They feel like they have a problem with money. It's like money and art. You know what I mean? So
and I think that's a really important point that you're making there, because we're taught so many falsehoods all through our life. We're taught things that are absolutely wrong. You can think of cliches such as if it sounds too good to be true. And then normally everybody's brain immediately goes to it probably is. That's not true. If it sounds too good to be true, it needs to be looked at, because there's probably a lot of money in whatever that issue is. Another one is that money's the root of all evil. Money isn't the root of all evil. It's the way people use money sometimes that does create evil. But money has nothing to do with it. Money is nothing more than vibrating energy, which everything in the universe is. Everything, including your thoughts. So when you look at money and you say, this is nothing more than a piece of paper or a coin that is a tool, and you look at it just like a hammer or a screwdriver when you're doing a handyman project, you say, okay, this is just a tool that gets me the ability to serve more of humanity and do more for humanity. That's when you start releasing and breaking that subconscious feeling that money's the root of all evil, which it's not. I mean, I always laugh and say, people say money doesn't grow on trees. Money is made from trees. I mean, paper money comes from making it from trees, So there's a real irony in there. But the people who look at it from the standpoint that money and corruption go together are completely off the mark. What they need to do is align their heart and say, I need a hammer and a screwdriver to build this shelf. Well, I need money to build this business. And that's one reason that we really focus on getting at least $10,000, $15,000 of extra revenue in, by showing people there's about a dozen things that we aren't taught, and there's a certain sequencing that makes a business successful and makes it easy to double and triple our profits, and it makes it really easy to build $1 million business. But these aren't things we're taught in school. We're not taught the things that really drive success. So it is a bit of a reversing the thinking level there.
Well, the one thing that I have noticed a lot lately in some of the blogs that I've read over the last year is trying to change people's thinking as far as money and their time goes, to have them realize that being selfish in a lot of cases is what's required in order for you to continue to be selfless. That if you don't generate income, you can't continue to help people for very long if you're doing it strictly out of your own savings or your existing credit or your current level of income from whatever business you happen to be in. So there are people out there starting to say that there is not only is there nothing wrong with being interested in making money from what you're doing, but it's a necessity if you want to keep doing what it is that makes you passionate, that gives you that reason for getting up in the morning. You know, a lot of coaches who could help a lot of people, they quit after a year or two or three because they either can't or don't understand how to do the things it takes to bring in clients that will pay those bills so they can keep writing their blog or doing their podcast or whatever it is they're doing to help people, to show people, that they should be using them as a business coach or a life coach or whatever.
Max, if I could pick up on that just a minute, you've just made an excellent point there. And if I could just share with you and your listeners a little example. It's not only getting around the money, it's understanding until you take care of yourself first, you can never help others. And we're taught, share your toys, do this, do that. And it is not self-focused. But until you get yourself sorted out, on the right path, on the right track, work out your issues, and really focus on self first, you can't help others. And I'll give you an example. Dell Computers became the biggest computer company in the world. Michael Dell's parents sent him to the University of Texas to be a doctor. Michael Dell said, I don't want to be a doctor. He started building computers and built the biggest computer industry, company in the world. And there's one top level look at, you can say, well, look at all the people he helped with what Dell Computers did. More importantly, his parents want him to be a doctor. He is building an enormous hospital in Austin, Texas, to be a big state-of-the-art research center, blah, 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 medical center. And he is giving that into the University of Texas. Now, what people don't realize is by Michael Dell following his own path, he's actually delivered more than he could have ever delivered in his entire life being a doctor. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
Once again, we're here with Bill Moore. He's a business consultant, mentor, and trainer who has built multi-million-dollar companies and achieved great success as a U.S. and European turnaround expert. And you can find him at successfrequency.com. And guys, right before continuing this conversation, if you have a passion, all of you listening right now, if you have a passion, something that fuels your curiosity, well, on top of getting fascinating interviews such as this one straight to your inbox, when you subscribe to our free Creative Magic community, you will get super cool exclusive gifts in return, such as the ebook, Happiness Quotes by the Ambassador of Happiness herself, Maura Sweeney, and also an exclusive conversation with two of my favorite people, Alex Okoroji and Max Ivy, yours truly. That's right, you're listening to him right now. As we talk the influence of friends and college education on our lives, the competitiveness in a crowded field, the importance of business and financial education and arts and entrepreneurship, and more. And also, Alex has a special gift for you inside. I promise you will get inspired and entertained. Subscribe for free at frederickbuy.com. That's Frederick with a C, buy like bye-bye.com. Take it away, Max.
Yeah, that's so right that he was able to help more people by by focusing on himself. And, I'm glad that there are some people starting to teach that online, because for 5 or 10 years now online, it's been, you have to give away great content. You need to be able to give people a free book or a checklist or an audio or something, that your blog posts need to be, your best work, and that you should be giving people this amazing advice and experience in your blog content. And that's great. It gives people a way to find out who you are and what you believe in. But there does come a point where you have to decide what you need to give away and what you need to encourage people to pay for, or to at least have to exchange some sort of investment for. So I'm glad to see that, we're starting to have that conversation online, because I think a lot of people have been misserved by thinking they have to give it all away, especially in an online business.
Yeah, that's true, Max. That's very true. And when I work with people, a lot of times, depending on their situation, I'll get them started. I would never say no to somebody if they came up and said, I want to hire you as my personal business coach, and I'm going to pay you $10,000, $20,000 a year or whatever, and I'm ready to write the check now. I would never say no, because when people give things away, what they don't realize is they'll give stuff away, but when somebody tries to give them something and they hold up their hands, as we're kind of taught in America, going, oh, no, I couldn't take that, they're actually breaking the quantum flow, and it flows in a circle. You have to accept and receive graciously all the time. Anything that's offered to you, you accept, you say thank you, you receive it graciously, and then you can push the flow out. But like on mine, what I'm working with, I would never say no to anybody that jumped in and said, I want to hire you as a business coach, and how much would that be, and blah, blah, blah. So, I would say never say no. But then there's other people who are saying, I'm really struggling. I've got this dream, but I just can't seem to make it work, or what have you. And I'll get them in the online course or what have you. And I pay a huge licensing fee for the resources on the website. But the thing is I will get them started and help them start making the money. And what people need to realize is then when they're making money, they're in a position to pay you. And 99.9% of the people I've ever met, if you help them get where they're going, as soon as they're able, they'll come back and do the best they possibly can by you. So, it's like I always say, we're all one big family on this planet. People just need to learn sometimes that every single one of us is part of that family. And they go, well, I don't agree with so-and-so, or I don't like the business ethics of so-and-so. Well, that's fine. We still can love humanity, love our business. It's, as I always say, we're all one family, but it doesn't mean we have to all stand in the same room at the same time. We just say, okay, well, bless them and let them go on. And we go our path, they go their path. But the ones that do connect with you on a heartfelt connection, they may need a little help or a little nudge or just something you can give them. But when you can help them get their feet on the ground and create their livelihood, they're not going to forget you. They know where that came from.
Yeah. One thing I like to tell people is I've had this conversation with a lot of people about asking for help or asking God or the universe for things that you need. And I often tell people, when you refuse to ask somebody, especially if you're in a position where you need help, if you refuse to ask the other person, you're robbing them of the joy that comes from doing something for another human being who can do nothing for them but say thank you. And what you were just saying about just say thank you and go on kind of got me thinking about that.
Yeah, you're right, Max. That's absolutely right.
Yeah. And, earlier you were talking about, I think you were in a way talking about law of attraction when we were in the beginning of the show. And before we started the show, I mentioned to you about Frederick being my co-host. And I think this show is a good example of letting people know what you want and then having the resources and the individuals come along to help you make it happen, because people had been asking me for a long time when I was going to have my own show. And I kept saying, I don't have the abilities or the time or the energy to do everything myself. If I could find somebody I trusted to be the co-host and handle the technical stuff, then I'd have a show. So now, a while back, Fred posted on Twitter that he was looking for somebody to have a show. We met, we've exchanged emails, and I think now we're into like our second or third month of doing these shows and having people like you on so that we can inspire, inform, and entertain our listeners.
Yeah. And, that is great. And the thing is, Frederick's a handsome guy, so any gals that come on the show are going to like that too.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's married. He's married and a new father, so I can just hope that he'll send the single ones my way.
Oh, there you go, Max. There you go. That's good planning. I see how this is shaping up now.
See, he's asking the universe. See, he's telling the world what he wants. See, this is what it is.
Well, I've been asking the universe about a female companion for 5 years now. She ain't showed up yet, so obviously I need to get some new friends because the friends I got ain't helping.
And just be patient.
Just
I know. Remember, look at 5 years is not a whole lot in the scope of the time of the universe, and not like that. When you don't worry about it and you go, well, whatever will be. And you move that away from a need into just an open space, it'll come along. Don't worry, Max.
Right.
I tell you what, the reason the delay is probably because you're such a special guy. The divine is probably out there looking around for the really special woman for you.
Yeah,
hey, Bill,
and the other thing is back to one of your earlier points, Bill, about having to get yourself in the right personal space. I've made a lot of changes in my life over the last 5 years, and even more so, even more compressed over the last 2.5 years. So it very well could be that I just wasn't ready, and the universe knew I wasn't ready.
Yeah, that's probably exactly right. And that's what I was saying about the lessons. I'll tell you an example of something. I'll share with your listeners a true story. Concerned Jan and I, we did the 7-day, 7-night Festival of Enlightenment. We made some changes right at the end. People came away and said it was life-changing. It was the best thing they'd ever done. They came from all around the world, speakers and attendees, and it was wonderful. However, because of a couple of the changes and me dropping some of the biggest rock stars in the world that would have made the money, but wouldn't have had the festival have the right tone and the right people there, we came out well in the six figures of upside down. So we really got our plow cleaned on resources at the time. And one day we were walking along and there was a delay getting a transfer from England of some funds from over there, and it was delayed. And Jan said, well, we got to go to the bank and sign some different papers to get this transfer done. And she said, we have expired all of the cash on hand. And as she was walking down there, she set the intention going out the door to find some money. And this is really important because when we walked up behind the bank, she found a dollar bill on the ground. Now, a lot of people could have easily said, well, what good's a dollar, because we need to buy groceries and dog food and everything else while we're waiting on this bank transfer. Not Jan. She stuck it in her pocket and she just made a little silent thank you to the divine and saying how exciting it was to find her first note, paper note, not coin, but a paper note. And she thought, now that I've created the dollar and the ability to create a note, I'm going to create $50. And that'll be everything we need till this transfer comes through. We walked back over to the hotel. It was about 20 minutes from the bank. We walked in front of another bank, and I swear to God, I looked down, and there was a $50 bill laying on the ground. And Jan saw it and picked it up and said, well, there's my $50. And it was right in front of Natural Grocers where we shop. So we went in and got the stuff we needed and the dog food and everything else. And that was a few years back. But the lesson in there for the people is never, ever, ever look at anything and anything less than gratitude for whatever the lesson that needs to be learned there. And if business has a hiccup or something doesn't come in, don't panic. Don't go, oh, my God, I've got this disaster or this, that, or the other. It may just be timing. And it's just like relax and say, I know this is all going to come out okay. The right person's going to come to me. The right money will come to me. The right lesson, whatever it is, it will come. And sometimes we ourselves have seen that come 2 or 3 days after the point that we thought would be a disaster. When it comes, everything is done. We look back and we go, you know what? Life went on. It wasn't any big deal. And that's where people in business have to really, what I would say, relax and say, I want the right information to come to me. Because as we say all the time, when we're teaching seminars, motivational speakers, and I'm not being critical here, but motivational speakers actually help set people up for failure. Because you get all hyped up, you come back, that wears off, and your subconscious starts saying, I told you you couldn't do it. I told you you couldn't do it. It wouldn't work. And that is not the way to go about it. It's not about hype. It's about sitting back and saying, I'm not going to just take action, which is what we're taught all our lives. I'm going to sit back, take a deep breath, and I'm going to ask that divine quantum universe for inspired action. And it'll give you the inspiration to do the right things. Yeah.
All right, once again, we're here with Bill Moore. He's a business consultant, mentor, and trainer who has built multi-million-dollar companies and achieved great success as a U.S. and Europe turnaround expert. And you can find him at successfrequency.com. And guys, right before continuing this conversation, we would like to thank those who pledged to our Patreon page. You are really helpful to the show and the network, and we are grateful for your help. In case you're wondering, Patreon is a simple way for you to contribute to the podcast every single month and get super cool exclusive gifts in return. I promise you will love the perks. Our Patreon page is at frederickbuy.com. That's Frederick with a C, buy like bye-bye.com, and click Patreon in the header. The money is used to cover our production costs and editing time, and you can contribute for as low as $1 a month. $1 a month. And let's get back to the conversation. Take it away, Max.
Okay. So what you're advising is inspired action as opposed to action. My dad used to tell me, Max, a lot of times you get in trouble if you do something just so you can say you were doing something. And I remember a couple of times where I bought amusement equipment because I had money in my pocket and wanted to add something to our lineup. And the item I added was not something that ended up working out for me. And he would usually remind me, go, well, I hope you can at least get your money back out of it. So there's, he would often say there's no value in doing something just to be doing something.
Very good advice. Very good advice. That is something that I think you have a really good point there. No matter how much we love people, it's always good to take everything with a grain of salt, because it doesn't matter if it's family, friends, or anything. Usually the advice that we hear or the words that we hear doesn't have the real power. Sometimes it's good advice. Sometimes it's good intentions, but those intentions aren't the advice we need to listen to. It's kind of, when I say take it with a grain of salt, it's listen and go, that's interesting. I'll file that away mentally. But then ask that divine quantum universe and say, and I don't care what people call it, God by any name, whatever they want to call it, there is a massive divine consciousness and a goodness behind the quantum field. So if they just go back and say, I'm really grateful for where I'm at, no matter how it looks, I'm really grateful for where I'm at, and I'm grateful for the lessons I'm learning, and I'd like some help with this, those inspired thoughts will come through. And that's when it's like, as you said, Max, you have some money in your pocket. It's like, oh, well, I'll buy some equipment and do what have you. But maybe sometimes in that situation, it would be, I've got some money. I think I should buy some equipment. Let me just throw this out there to the universe and give it a little time to digest and see what happens. Because then you may come back and have an inspired thought to do something entirely different. That's why I say a lot of this is just relaxing, taking a deep breath and going with the flow, and not saying, I got to run out there and do something right this minute.
Well, the other thing I wanted to mention, this is something I didn't understand then, but I understand now because of the work I've done, the people that I listen to, the blogs I read, and I wouldn't have understood it in the same way then, but it makes perfect sense to me now. The main reason why more than once I invested in equipment that was bad for me is because I had a lack mentality, and my approach was, if I don't spend this money on something today, it won't be here tomorrow. And so that's one of the things I've really had to work on. I'm still not really good at spending money on myself or other things. I tend to be very cautious with spending money, whether it's investing in courses or, creating products, anything that I have to do in my business. And I think it's still that old belief in lack that, there's only so much, and I'm not really believing in God and the universe's ability to provide not only my needs, but even so much more than my needs.
There's a really good video on YouTube on that Bob Newhart did called Stop It. And so I have to say, stop it, Max. Because really, I think, that is a hard thing for people to break, because especially if they've ever been like my parents, and a lot of parents out there went through the Great Depression. And during the Great Depression, they saw lack of many things, but a lot of people made a lot of money during the Great Depression. And you carry forward some of those memories and thoughts that, there won't be enough or what have you. But if you change that thinking and you get up in the morning and say, something, not everything's running just the way I want it or just exactly smooth or perfect, but I woke up alive. As one guy told me yesterday, I woke up on the correct side of the grass. And you look around you and you go, I can hear the birds singing. I can, touch the soft grass, or, just mentally. I mean, you, without the ability of vision, you still have probably even a more uncanny knack, Max, to appreciate the beauty around you. And people take so much for granted, that whether it be their hearing, their sight, their touch, and don't stop to think about that, those things that they do in interacting with the world, or even the ability to simply think about their dream business and start putting it together, attract people to them. I've got a client I was with yesterday that had a dream to start a business when I first met him 4 months ago through the Chamber of Commerce. We're both in. He was telling me about his dream, and I said, so when do you want this dream to be a reality? And he said, I'd like to see it in 5 years' time. And I looked at him. I said, why 5 years? He said, I don't know. I've been writing the business plan for the last 2 years. And, it's coming together slowly but surely and whatnot. And I sat down with him. And I said, we can do this in 24 months if you want. We can have it done in 2 years. You can have it operating, running, and up there and going. And it's a manufacturing type thing. So it's a little bigger entity than just starting business. But he said, wow, I never thought about that. And he said, every time I talk to somebody about it, they always just said, that's a good idea. But then you and Jan came along and said, well, make your dream happen. And you started showing me how to do it. And that's a classic example. I'm not saying that we were the geniuses that moved him from 5 years to 2 years. It could have been somebody else. The point is the universe brought him the resource that could help him get to the first step of the funding he needed and on in. And that's what people have to stop and relax and understand is if they ask for those resources and just focus their attention on give me the inspiration, connect me with the right people, provide me the resources. And this is an important one. Resources. Don't sit there and say, I need money. Because none of us need money for anything. This is a barter world. Money is just one of the tools that people barter. So when they start getting their head around that and say, I just need the resources and the people and whatnot. Max, you stated a perfect example. You and Frederick got hooked up, and now you two guys have got a great opportunity here for people to learn tons of stuff from. Two intelligent guys come together. That didn't happen by accident. You both were on a wavelength that just made it unnatural to come together. And that's what we need to realize is it's just asking for the resources and then listening to what information comes to that inner voice.
Right. I just want to say two things about that. One is we do ask for resources, but quite often when people get the resources, if they're not exactly the resource they were hoping for, then quite often they will refuse to accept or use the resource. And the other thing is I know that you're a longtime businessman, but to me, one of the most destructive things out there is this idea that you have to have a business plan. I mean, I've met so many people who are still working on their business plan who could have been in business 10 years ago,
Yeah, Max, I totally agree. I've got a friend in Wales. His name's Derry Llewellyn Davis. And he wrote a business books I've ever read called Strategy on a Page. And I use that with every client that I start with. It's one sheet of paper, and it makes them really figure out what their purpose, their vision, their mission, and all of that is very briefly, literally on 1, 2, 3 lines, and then setting the goals and then the growth indicators that make the goals, understanding what their unique selling position is. And then one of the big things that we do is everybody talks about their USP, unique selling position. Unless they convert that into a market dominating position, they can never have the total complete success that they could have. And when I say a market dominating position, that's not like being aggressive or anything like that. When I say that, what I mean is that when people talk to that business or that person, their subconscious is saying to them, I would be crazy not to do business with this person. It's like a magnet. It's like this. I wouldn't be doing the right thing unless I did business with this person. That's a market dominating position. All of that can be done on one sheet of paper. And the business plan, when it's written for years, as you said, a lot of people just dwell on writing it. Once it's written, they may use it possibly to go get money from a bank or from a grant or something. Then it goes on a shelf and it's forgotten about. if they do the strategy on a page approach, they can knock that out really quick, have all the first steps and key steps, and then each month they can review it, just modify it and make the next step and the next step, and they can move right on. And it also gives them most of the resources very quickly to write the business plan very quickly as well. And you made a point, Max, about asking for help. This is one thing that I just did. The young man that was writing the business plan for quite some time, I reviewed what he had, and there's still a good ways to go. But he said, I'm a little bit stuck. And as soon as he started doing the strategy on a page, he said, I'm starting to go back and change the business plan. I said, even more importantly, just go on the internet, get liveplan.com, and sign me in on it. And what you can do is you can write your thoughts and ideas, and I'll come in and I'll put thoughts and ideas in there for you too. And when you do that, and he said, oh, you'll help me write it. And I said, absolutely. And when you ask for some help like that, then you've got a built-in accountability, and you also have a much faster flow because you're inspired. You got help. Anytime somebody comes in to give you a hand, right?
Yeah, exactly. I want to mention just one more thing because Frederick's fixing to tell me that we're out of time, and I want to make sure you get to tell people about success, about your website. And but I wanted to mention one thing for the people out there. Bill is a person who I've known for almost 2 years now, and we met when I did or was going to do his and Jan's radio show. We had some technical difficulties. We finally got to do the show a few months back, but Bill is one of these people, if I have questions or problems, I usually ask him first. And just today, I had inquired with the people at Amtrak to see if maybe they would help me with doing a book tour to promote my book about the Amtrak experience. And they sent me back this form and wanted all this information. They wanted me to fill out what amounts to a business plan for an event. And I'm like, come on, I sent y'all an email that said exactly what I want to do and what y'all will benefit. Why can't we just go with that? But they couldn't. So I think I did my thing on a page. Now, unfortunately, I have to translate that my goal on a page into numbers and demographics and crap I don't know the first thing about, so these people can put it in their form.
Yeah, and I got your email, Max, on that, and I'll get that all together later this afternoon, and we'll get it sorted out. What you ended up with was an autoresponder, which was a generic form they send to everybody. That's not uncommon because it's kind of like if somebody asks them to sponsor something, but we can sort that out quickly, and I'm glad to help you with that. And go ahead.
But it's just one of those things where I think it's a matter of your mental approach to things. I tend to think of things more literally in words, and you and some of the other people I have to deal with, they tend to think of things more in the way of numbers and charts and forms. And so it takes a little bit of both of us in order for the thing to actually get to become what it is that you see in your head. Because I can see a heck of an idea, and it would be nice if people didn't have to use autoresponders and generic auto replies and stuff like that. But hey, we're just way too busy people, so we have to. But, it's a perfect example of asking for people to come into your life and help you. And, I've got you, I got Frederick, I got Jan, and everybody can do that, as I'm sure you will tell people.
Absolutely. Everybody can do that. And that's the reason that we have 4 free videos up on the website is it's not a matter of coming in and saying, well, how much is this going to cost me? It's a matter of saying, let's get your ball rolling there. Let's help you. And then, you can reciprocate later. It is important to help other people because what goes around comes around. And that, you said something about the website. I mean, the thing that we do is there's 1,400 pages of business resources on there. And if anybody looked at it and went, oh, my God, where would I start? that's the reason we do those 4 videos, get them started, and then we have a 52-week program of exactly the right information coming out every week. And there is a roadmap, a personal roadmap, which is a quiz that they take, and they say, okay, this is the way I'm answering these questions. And it comes back and says, okay, this is the ordering. You need to do this to achieve the maximum results. And that's why I say, when some friends of mine built this site and they said, Bill, we'd like you to license this from us. And it was really quite expensive, but I looked at it and I said, this is the correct information. Of course, there's 5 of the best marketing guys in the world, and I knew they were the best, and I had met a couple of them, and I was like, yeah, this is really good, and it will help people. So I said, why should I reinvent the wheel?
So what is the URL for the website over there?
It's successfrequency.com.
Awesome.
And why don't you go ahead and you also still have the aSmilingWorld.com or .org?
Yeah, either one. They both go to the same place. aSmilingWorld.com, successfrequency.com. We also have aSmilingWorldMedia.com, which is where we do web development and marketing out of that side. And Jan's coaching and executive coaching, and I have to laugh here because I always share with everybody. I say it's interesting. I find it interesting watching her doing coaching because she has a reputation as being one of the best, and some of the biggest names in the world. People have quit and come to Jan. But I always tease everybody here where we're at, and I say, can you imagine being in America and having a British coach in America coaching a Mexican diplomat who's stationed in Japan? I say, if that's not international and multicultural, I don't know what is.
Well, that's awesome, Bill. Look, I feel like we could talk for another hour. It's fascinating. I love your approach. I urge people to go to successfrequency.com. I think, I don't know. I like your teaching, and I like your approach to things, really. So, I'll take your advice to heart. That's for sure. What I learned today. And don't ask for money, ask for resources. Very important. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get hooked up, Frederick. I'm looking for the day we're having a coffee together, all 3 of us.
Oh, that would be awesome. Seriously. I'm taking you up on your word, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's something that, I have mentioned on the show a couple of times before. I would love to do live events, and I would love to organize a live event because by now, with the people that I have interviewed and been interviewed by, I think we could put together a hell of a roster of people if we just, so it'd be a matter of figuring out the when, the how, and most importantly, the why.
Well,
I think we could do it.
I'll break a secret to you, Max. I'm negotiating on a ranch right now that'll be a facility for doing just that, and I'll make sure you 2 guys are on the first run.
Oh.
That sounds like it. Yeah. That's what I like to hear. I know y'all been in the process on that ranch for several months now, and I do hope it comes to fruition. Because not only will it allow you to do your event again, it will allow you to facilitate other people doing similar life-changing events. So
certainly, we'll do it. It's a big ranch and it's a big deal, so it takes time to do that. But the quantity, that divine universal to bring it at the right timing.
Yeah. All righty. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and we did have a great talk. And as Frederick said, we could talk much longer. And I do hope that we hear from you that some of our listeners have decided to at least watch those first 4 videos and find out what the successfrequency.com is all about.
Well, lovely. Yeah. Love to have them. And thank you all for having me on the show. And as the Moody Blues said, whether it be business or personal life, they've got a song called Say It With Love. If you do that, everything will work out.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Thank you so very much. Honestly, this was very good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Frederick. Thank you, Max. And you guys have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, Max.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, again, what I learned from that conversation is just what I said. I think I got a haha moment here. Ask for resources, not for money. And I think that makes a whole difference. Makes a big difference, actually.
Well, I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, it's, very seldom have I asked for money. There've been times when somebody was, when I've been in a financial bind, I have asked for it, but usually I ask for, I will try to, I'll either say it out loud or I'll try to project out there, or I'll pray and I'll say, this is what I need in order for me to accomplish my goal. And, at one point it was, I needed to figure out how to do the website. And at another point it was, how to record videos. And then of course it was doing this show, with my email setup. I had lots of trouble with that until somebody finally came along who, I had let people know that I needed something simpler, something that would take less effort for me to send out emails to my list. And, a friend came along and told me to try Mad Mimi. So yeah, definitely have to focus more on people and resources and not so much on money when you're
right.
putting it out there as to what we need.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening to this. This is another great conversation we just had. And by the way, guys, if you are an Amazon shopper, when you use our Amazon links at frederickbuy.com, Amazon kicks back a few bucks to the show, to the network, and it helps cover production costs. No additional cost to you. No hidden fees, no BS, no nothing. So if you like what you hear, you can help by going over to frederickbuy.com. That's Frederick with a C. buylikebuy.com and click the Amazon link in the sidebar for all your online shopping. It is really that simple, and bookmark it to find it easier. Also, guys, we're looking for new hosts on the network. So if you're a positively oriented entrepreneur, looking to maybe, step into the podcast world, we would be glad to help. And you can go to frederickbuy.com and click become a host in the header. You'll get all the information there. And also, we're looking, the Creative Magic Store is open, alive, and well. It's designed with meaning, meant to inspire you, tap into your intuition, and add a little bit of magic into your life. Go to frederickbuy.com and click Creative Magic Store in the header, and there are special items from Max. Aren't there, Max?
Yep, they can buy both of my books over there. It's, Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, A Blind Man's Inspirational Guide to Success, which comes with 11 actionable exercises and email support. And then It's Not the Cookie, It's the Bag, an easy-to-follow guide to weight loss success, where they can learn the lessons that I did prior to having gastric surgery and some of the adjustments I've made now living with my new body 4 years later. And I don't know how we're going to do this, but I think we need to figure out some way to do some pre-orders on my next book. And maybe
Sure.
I need to start with a blog post asking people to help me come up with a name for it. So look for a blog post on frederickbuy.com about the name, about helping me name the next book. And once we come up with a name, then we can possibly do some pre-orders, or maybe give some of our Creative Magic fans some sort of special benefit for if they find it in the store or on the website.
Right. And this podcast is free every time you download it on iTunes or Stitcher. So please go over there, subscribe, or to whatever platform you're using. And it is listener supported. Tell a friend, leave a 5-star review. It really helps a brother out. Last words, Max, right before we're out into the sunset.
I think I'm a little tapped out today, but yeah, it was a great show. Mm-hmm. We're going to have another great show next week. I think our next guest is Tim Matthews. I'm not 100% sure on that, but y'all definitely need to come back every week. And as I tell people, if I can do it, then what is your excuse?
There you go. And don't forget, live with purpose, passion, and love. All right. Bye-bye. You've been listening to What's Your Excuse with Max Ivy, known around the world as the Blind Blogger. For more information, you can go to theblindblogger.net or frederickby.com. That's Frederick with a C, by like bye-bye.com.